Welcome to Betting Weekly WTA, the women's tennis betting podcast, brought to you in association with Bet Rivers. I'm Rory Jiwani. With me is Nigel Seeley. We've got the final WTA 1000 of the year to look forward to. It's the Wuhan Open. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube and your favourite podcast provider. And follow us on social media. The handle is at Because We Win. And if you like what you hear on our shows, sign up for our newsletter. Get exclusive tips and the free Insider magazine. Sign up for free at www.bettingweeklystudios.com. And we have a winner to celebrate. Our joint pick, Amanda Anisimova, reached the final of the China Open in Beijing. She was a minus 295 favourite against Linda Noskova. She won the first set 6-love. Thought it was going to be easy money. Lost the second 6-2, but she's just won the third 6-2. That was a 2-point each way play for us, so that makes the season a bit more respectable. Still got a few tournaments to go and try and improve our figures for the year. But Nigel, great to get a winner at last.
Well, you were very, very kind of. You didn't lead on it. I thought you'd done your usual lead. I thought you would have gone in, hey boys, we've had the winner, like fantastic. But we don't. Nothing is ever easy on the WTA show, is it? So she wins the first set 6-love. You think, cigar, job done. But no, it's not. As anything's very difficult on this WTA, and women's tennis is very, very hard. But it's great to come on to the show now after what has been such a season of near misses, especially in the last sort of 6 weeks or so. We've been so unlucky. And to get finally one over the line feels us really good. And you can sense it on the show now. You can sense it in your mood. You sense it in my mood. Because we've come on and been a bit down in the dumps. We've been sort of like thinking, oh, no, we need a winner. Now, just sort of boosted by 25 points of profit. It just sort of makes you feel very good going into the final few weeks of the season. And obviously, we've got a big event this week, and hopefully we can keep that momentum going. And there's a lot of people that here who need to win, and a lot of people that we want to get involved. But really, honestly, it was great. I watched that first set, thought that's job done, took the dog for a walk, come back, thought, hang on a minute, this might be a little bit more dodgy than I thought it was. But it was great to get that win done. So yeah, well, thoroughly deserved from both of us, actually, to be fair. I'm not one of these people to blow on my own trumpet, and I understand in the world of betting that things go up and down and variance comes in and things happen, and you make your own rules. But I think some of the luck we've had on this channel, especially in the last sort of few months or so, we needed a win like that, and I'm delighted we have it. So well done. Well, but a round of applause for both of us.
Yes,
round of applause.
Exactly. No time to stand on ceremony, though. Onwards and upwards. We've got Wuhan to look forward to. It's another 1,000. It's a bit shortened. It's a 56-player draw. Top 8 seeds get buys into round 2. Madison Keys is missing again, while last year's runner-up, Qin Wenzheng, she's out after her elbow injury flared up again in Beijing. But Aryna Sabalenka's back. She's bidding for a 4th consecutive title, although the first 2 were before the pandemic in 2018 and 2019. Last year, she beat Zheng in 3 sets in the final. In 2019, she defeated Alison Riske again in 3 sets. And in 2018, she beat Anett Kontaveit in straight sets. 2017, Caroline Garcia defeated Ashley Barty in the final. Petra Kvitova won her 2nd Wuhan title in 2016. She won the inaugural event in 2014. Venus Williams, the only other winner. That was in 2015. Last year, the service hold percentage, a bit surprised, it was a bit lower than I thought, but it was 64.2, which is medium pace. That said, the previous winners of the tournament have tended to be bigger servers and hitters. Now, one thing to watch this week, the conditions. They could be a big factor. Hot and humid for most of the week, around 32 Celsius, which is close to 90 Fahrenheit. So it's going to be hard work out there at the end of a long season. Nigel, what do you make of these historic trends? And obviously, are there players to look at, maybe to avoid, given the speed and the conditions?
Well, the first thing I'll say is quite ironic that we're coming to this tournament in Wuhan when I'm coming to the end. I think I've got COVID again. I felt absolutely terrible for the last week. I did a test and I still think those tests are dated, but I've been absolutely dreadful with it. I think it's quite ironic that the COVID bug is going around as the Wuhan tournament starts again. But anyway, yeah, we're soldiering on. You pretty much run through it there, Rory, to be honest with you. You give us all the previous winners. And yeah, I rely on you for the court speed. I look at the court speed from your guidance. And when I looked at the previous winners here, Sabalenka, Kvitova won it twice as well, Venus Williams, I thought this is definitely going to be a fast court. But when you broke it down, it isn't a fast court. And I'm not quite sure whether the fields that there is this time around are as strong as what there has been in previous years. If we look at the records, last year, Sabalenka beat Zheng in the final. Sabalenka was the number 1 seed, Zheng was the number 5 seed. And in the semi-finals, we had the number 1, the number 3, the number 4, and the number 5 seed, which is quite strange, really, at this time of year. You know, this time of the year, you would think that the top players, you want to be fading. Obviously, there's motivation for a few of them to get into the Tour End Championships over in where is it? It's Saudi, isn't it?
Riyadh, yeah.
So it's over in Riyadh. So there's a lot of bit of motivation for players to come into that. If you go back through previous years, in the 6 renewals, 3 unseeded players have won it, but they're good unseeded players. Sabalenka was unseeded, Garcia was unseeded, Venus Williams was unseeded as well. And then we've had a few finalists as well that were unseeded. So it's not unusual to find some players that can go deep at big prices, but it's been dominated by Aryna Sabalenka. Obviously, she's had the advantage, unlike anyone else in the draw, having the week off, which is a big advantage for her. But I just question motivation for players at this time of the year. And obviously, Sabalenka has won it. And she's looking for history to win it 4 times in the trot. She is a very, very worthy favourite, and she's a favourite that a lot of people might be tempted by at plus 260. But I think there's value elsewhere.
Okay. Let's have a look at the draw. If Q1 goes according to the seeding, Sabalenka will play Yelena Rybakina. Naomi Osaka, perhaps the biggest threat outside of those, although you've got Lyudmila Samsonova in Q1 as well. Q2, Amanda Anisimova, who's just won Beijing. She would meet Jessica Pegula in the quarterfinals. Tough quarter, this one. You've got Ekaterina Alexandrova, Emma Raducanu, Deanna Schneider is in that quarter, although she's been out of form lately. Q3, Mira Andreeva and Coco Gauff seeded to meet each other in the quarters. Karolina Muchova's there too, but she faces Marta Kostyuk in round 1. Emma Navarro, another danger in Q3. She had a good week in Beijing. And in Q4, Jasmine Paolini seeded to play second seed Iga Swiatek. She lost to Navarro in Beijing. Clara Towson and Belinda Bencic also in that quarter. Let's bring up the outright odds. And you can see there, as Nigel said, Sabalenka, the favourite, at plus 260. Swiatek next best, plus 330. Coco Gauff, plus 650. Anisimova, $8. Andreeva, $9. Yelena Rybakina, $11. Naomi Osaka, 14s. Jessica Pegula, 20. Same price as Karolina Muchova. Linda Noskova, $30. Jasmine Paolini, 33s. And it's $40 bar those. I've got 2 questions here. You've already answered my first one, which was whether Sabalenka was a bit of value at plus 260. I'm sure many people will think so. The other question, the bottom half looks slightly easier, does it?
Yes, both questions, yes. I think Sabalenka is the value. I think she would be a bet at plus 260. I'm not going to bet her at plus 260, right. But I do think the bottom half offers you your best way of attacking this draw. You have to look at the each-way market, and you have to look at the each-way value. If you look at the top half of the draw, there's a few things we have to sort of look at. First of all, Sabalenka's fresh, 3 times champion, so she knows she likes it here. She knows she likes the court conditions. You know she's going to be up for it. She's in a race to end of the season at number 1 ahead of Iga Swiatek. She's going to do that. She's got points to defend here, so she knows she's going to be right up for the challenge. So she's going to be interested in it. Anisimova's in that section, and Linda Noskova in that section as well. So Linda Noskova is actually in her first quarter. Noskova, I'm not quite sure whether she's going to be up for the challenge after what has been a very, very long week for her. Amanda Anisimova, who I think is now becoming a real serious bet to win the Australian Open. But I think back-to-back tournaments over in the Far East in these conditions is very, very hard. very, very difficult to win it back-to-back tournaments anyway. But in these weather conditions, with this humidity, and she has some long matches. Her match against Paulina was long. Her match today was long, emotionally as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see Anisimova or one of those two withdraw from the tournament. It wouldn't surprise me at all, because this is a testing conditions. Her motivation now is the Tour Championships at the end of the season. Nothing else to prove. 2 major finals, 2 1,000 events. Anisimova's ticked a lot of boxes this year, and next year 1 box needs to tick, and that's to win a major. So I'm not quite sure whether she will participate. That means that Raducanu, Pegula comes into the reckoning here. But I would expect Sabalenka to come through that top half of the draw, because I think there's going to be a huge amount of withdrawals. Naomi Osaka's not playing particularly well. Rebecca's not playing particularly well. Schneider playing dreadful. Alexandrova may be too slow for her. I do like Raducanu. She ran into Pegula in a repeat of the match that they played last week, in a match that Raducanu would have won many more times than she would have lost. So I think Sabalenka will probably come through that top half of the draw. But if you want to bet her at plus 260, that is entirely up to you. But my purpose on this show always has been, and our purpose on this show is always to find value. And I'm looking at that bottom half of the draw, and I'm trying to find the person who I think is the each way value to come through. Now, Iga Świątek, it's been a long season. I mean, her defeat last week was a really poor one. I mean, to lose against Emma Navarro 6-love in a bagel in the final set was something you would never see for Iga Świątek. Has the season caught up with her? She must need to rest herself up after a long summer. Her runs at the Wimbledon, her runs through to the deep end of the US Open. I mean, it's been a long year for her, and I think at plus 330, she's taken on. Goff, absolutely blitzed by Anisimova. She's not anywhere near her potential. And for me, apart from Anisimova last week, the takeout player on the week last week was Jasmine Paolini. I thought she was exceptional last week. I mean, and that match against Anisimova could have gone either way at some stages. She went at it, but she won, didn't drop a set through to that match. She was brilliant at the Billie Jean Cup, where she didn't lose a set. US Open, she ran into a Vondrousova, who was in form. Prior to that, Cincinnati, another 1,000, got beaten in the final by Iga Świątek. She needs the points to guarantee top 8 in the Tour Championships. So you get guaranteed motivation is for her. She's a player that I think is playing probably her best tennis of the season. And I think at a 33-1, to get 16.5-1 for her to get to the final, that to me offers better value than betting Aryna Sabalenka to win this at plus 260. We don't know. Sabalenka's been on Instagram again. She's been traveling around. She might be thinking, this could be the end of the season. I want to have fun. I'm not really bothered too much about tennis. There's a lot of players in this time of the year that feel that way. But for Jasmine Paolini, she has a goal, and her goal was to get into the Tour Championship and get as high as the rankings as she can. And at 33-1 compared to Coco Gauff, who's 650, so 5 times the price of Coco Gauff, and 10 times the price of Iga Świątek, who I think is done for the year. That is my bet each way. So my bet here, I'm going to go for 0.75 points each way on Jasmine Paolini at 33-1. I do have another pick, but I want to go on to some matches to explain the other pick on the outright market. But my main pick is Jasmine Paolini. Apologies, at 33-1.
Yeah, so for the second week in a row, we're in agreement. And it worked last week. Well, last week, it worked a week and a half ago. So let's hope it does the same here. I agree with you on Paolini. I thought she was very good last week. She could have beaten Anisimova in that contest, which seemed to go on forever. And her draw, it doesn't look that bad. I mean, her first real test could be in the round of 16, although who would she likely face?
She could run into Clara Towson.
But she's been out of form.
She's done for the year, isn't she?
Yeah, you'd think so. And then, really, I can't see her slipping up before, Świątek in the quarterfinals. And, you look at the price discrepancy there. Świątek's plus 330, Paolini's 10 times the price. So, and you could you could look at almost look at a trading position there in that match. But given the way they've been playing of late, and the way Swiatek collapsed against Navarro was a bit alarming. And I think actually one takeout of Beijing, which you mentioned when we looked at the matches last time, it's a big difference between the speed. There was a big difference between the speed in the middle of the day and at night. It got a lot slower at night. And I think, when Swiatek lost to Navarro, it wasn't, we know Swiatek's always had a bit of a problem playing in the evening, playing at night. And that allied to the slower conditions, she just didn't look herself. And Navarro played, pretty well. I mean, Navarro does what Navarro does. She did what she normally does. And, she's very solid and, without being spectacular, but she makes you work for your points. And Swiatek was really out of sorts. Out of the two, certainly at the prices, I think that Q4 is perhaps the easiest quarter. Q3 doesn't look that much more difficult. We could see Andreeva bounce back. Goff, we could see bounce back, although, she was poor against Anisimova, really poor against Anisimova. And then you got Navarro, Muchova. So, Q4 probably is the weakest one. And, if you're looking at Karolina, I just think that price is too big. So should we make it 1.5 points then on Karolina? Joint effort.
I think the other factor is that everyone's looked at her head-to-head record against Iga Swiatek, where she trails 6-love. But that 6-0, obviously, that's where this price is. But I think that's factored into this price, and I think Iga Swiatek's beatable, and Karolina's playing the best that she's played all season.
Yeah,
she's got a goal, and Iga Swiatek they're probably thinking, just ease up now, get myself fit, try to win the Tour Championships, and try to end, hopefully, world number 1. I think that's her goal, whereas Karolina wants us to get there. So I'm prepared to overlook that 6-0 winning record for Swiatek. I think 33-1 is a big price. So 1.5 points each way, Rory. We're all in. We're going all in on it.
Why not?
We're going all in on old Jasmine Karolina.
Why not? So that's outright. You've got, as you say, you've got another outright pick, but we're going to look at some matches. And first up, Magdalena Frech against Veronika Kudermetova. Frech plus 175, Kudermetova minus 220. Spreads 3.5 games, totals 21.5. The Russian leads the head-to-head 2-1. Their last meeting was in Monastir, and Kudermetova won pretty comfortably. Conditions will certainly be quicker here. But Kudermetova's been, she reached the semi-finals in Cincinnati. She's been in dismal form since. Frech hasn't exactly been playing well either. But I just thought Frech was a little big here because I just can't really trust Kudermetova at the moment. Certainly not minus 220. And the poll did make the quarterfinals here last year. So that made me just think that Frech might be a big price at plus 175. And maybe you could get involved on the spread, plus 3.5 games, Frech at minus 113. So that was... I was sort of toying whether that would be a lean or a bet for me. I think it's going to just be a lean. But Kudermetova, I don't think I'd ever back Kudermetova at minus 220, Nigel.
Well, no. Frech hasn't been in the greatest of form, so that'd be a worry for me. But and there has been, since the line went up with Bet Rivers, Kudermetova has actually attracted a little bit of support, which I've said this on the Betting Weekly Tennis Live as well. I think sometimes the money at the end of the season is good money to follow. I think, halfway through the season, you see a market move, you think, well, I don't agree with that market. But by the end of the season, when motivation and fitness is a question, I do think if there's a substantial move for a player, I think you have to respect it.
There we go. So that's Frech Kudermetova. Moving on to our second match to look at, and Nigel's very interested in this one. Marta Kostyuk against Karolina Muchova. Kostyuk plus 112, Muchova minus 139. Spreads 1.5 games, totals 21.5. Muchova won their only previous meeting, which was at the US Open this year, and she was struggling quite badly physically during that match, but she managed to come through 6-3 in the decider. And she reached the quarterfinals in Beijing before falling to Amanda Anisimova. Kostyuk gave Jessica Pegula a scare, but fell 6-1 in the decider. I've got to say, I was actually looking at Muchova, as a possible futures pick. I got a bit worried because she was playing doubles in Beijing with Priscilla Hon, the Australian, and they actually withdrew before their semi-final. But having delved into it, looks like Hon had a foot injury. So Muchova still fit, touch wood, at the moment. But what did you make of this one, Nigel?
I think this is a short price on Muchova. And again, we're talking about money. There's been a substantial move all day for Kostyuk. Plus 112 is probably the best price around at the moment in time. And you probably will be expecting to get that a little bit. She'll probably be a little bit shorter than that. I thought Kostyuk played quite well in Beijing. Couple of good wins. Seedal was a good win. Informed Seedal, straight set. Sasanovic was a good win. Played well against Jessica Pegula. Perhaps, she should have won that match. If you look at the data, she won. She played well in the second set. In the first set, she had chances, but she obviously ran out of legs in set number 3. But I'm a big fan of Marta Kostyuk, and I believe that she's got the potential to be a top 10 player. And I think at the end of the season, against an injury ravaged Karolina Muchova over the years, I wouldn't be trusting Muchova at minus 139. But I'm not going to bet her at plus 112 because I think whoever wins this match has a real chance to get through to the semi-finals of this tournament. And I think the better way to play it is to bet Kostyuk at 150 to 1 with Bet Rivers to win the tournament in Wuhan. She wins this match. She will then play the winner of the Frech Kudermetova match, which you would expect her to win. She'll then play Mira Andreeva, who hasn't been in great form. Coco Gauff after that, who hasn't been in great form. So I think Andreeva and Gauff are gettable here. I think Świątek is gettable here. We've gone with Paolini, and I think Kostyuk could win this match. And I think the winner of this match could shock everyone and go deep in the tournament. So instead of betting the plus 112 Kostyuk, I'm going to have a quarter of a point each way on Kostyuk at 150 to 1 to win the tournament. So 0.75. So I'm laying out 2 units on the outright market. 0.75 on Paolini at 33 to 1 and a quarter of a point on Kostyuk at 150.
Yeah, yes, there's sound logic there. I mean, as you say, whoever wins this match has a great chance of going deep. That Q3 isn't the strongest, as we've said. Andreeva and Gauff not in great form. So definitely a chance for Kostyuk or Muchova to go a long way. Let's move on to our next match. Ashlyn Krueger against Hailey Baptiste, all-American battle. Krueger's a favourite here, minus 129. Baptiste plus 104. Spreads 1.5 games, totals 21.5. Neither in great form of late, especially Krueger, who had plenty of chances against Maria Sakkari in Beijing. Baptiste also fell at the first hurdle in Beijing, losing a tight encounter to Katie Bolter. Head-to-head is 1 apiece. Strangely, they've been at the same tournament, those meetings, in consecutive years at the ITF 60,000 event in Orlando, Florida. Both ended in straight sets. 2 players who would prefer quicker conditions. I just think Krueger's a player to really avoid at the moment. And Baptiste, she hasn't won that many matches, but the ones she's lost have been to players you would expect her to lose to. I think she's just been that bit more consistent. I thought this would be closer in the betting, and I thought, if anything, Baptiste might be favourite. So I've got to have a point on Baptiste on the money line here at plus 104. And partly because, Krueger, she reached that final in February in Abu Dhabi, and she's shown such little since, Nigel.
I think it's probably a 50-50 call, really.
Yeah.
I've got no real opinion on the match. When you look at the matches that come out, your eyes get drawn to one match, and some people's eyes get drawn to other matches. This was one just to skip over completely for me. So I wouldn't have opinion, but obviously at the plus money in a match that you think should be minus 110 each, maybe a little bit of value, but I'm a little bit alarmed to see that the early money in the market is against our girl. Krueger's seen the early flurries with bet rivers, but that can change over the period of time. That can change, but as I say, I do respect the money a lot more in the last month of the season than I do in sort of month 3 or 4 of the season.
One more match to look at, and you were saying about matches that you're drawn to straight away. I think this is the best match. I mean, Kostyuk Muchova's very good, but this should be a cracker as well. Naomi Osaka against Leylah Fernandez. Osaka -235, Fernandez +185. The spread 3.5 games, totals 21.5. And a lot of you will remember their only previous meeting. It was at the 2021 US Open, and Fernandez won it 3 long sets. And of course, she went on to reach the final, going down to Emma Raducanu. Osaka looked almost back to her best at the US Open this year. She reached the semis. But then in Beijing, she suffered a shock first round exit to Alexandra Sasnovich. Whereas Fernandez has been pretty consistent of late. She lost to Aryna Sabalenka at the US Open. She went down in 3 sets to Coco Gauff in Beijing. And the Canadian does seem to do well at this time of year. We've seen her excel in the Billie Jean King Cup in the last couple of years. She's won a couple of tournaments in Mexico, sort of tail end of the season. I thought, first look, +185 looked big about Fernandez. What did you think, Nigel?
That's my way of thinking. I like Fernandez in this matchup. She beat her at the US Open, obviously that year that the crazy US Open happened, where it was wasn't it? It was, yeah. It was when she went all the way to the final. Osaka, I just don't know what else is there for her to do this season. I think she's done a lot of things in this season already. She's recaptured her top game. She's proven that she's a player that can go deep, and I think that she really expected her to go really well at the US Open. And I genuinely think a lot of people thought she could win the US Open. It didn't really work out for her. Her performances since then have been poor. I mean, she got beat by obviously, Anisimova in that semi-final. But since then, Sasnovich was a bad performance. I just don't know what she's got. I mean, before COVID, when she come here, she won the tournaments over here. Obviously, a Japanese player playing this part of the world. There's a lot of fans who want to see her, and it meant a lot to her. But since then, she hasn't really done much at this time of the year. And I think Fernandez here is a real lively contender. I do like her on the money line at +185, but I'm not going to bet her on the money line. My bet here, and my only official play on the match, is to bet her on this round is to bet her +3.5 games at -108. I just got a feeling this is going to be a lot closer than those odds suggest. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go into 3 sets, and over 2.5 sets is +155. But I'm going to go for Fernandez at +3 at -108 because the total over looks value as well to me. I think this. I wouldn't trust Osaka at -235 because I just don't know what. Her season was to show. I've come back from childbirth. I can play at the top level. I've done it. And the US Open was a peak. That was the one that she wanted to win. That's the one that she wanted to prove everybody. Her performance coming in was peaking at that tournament. Since then, we've only got one match. We've only got a 1-match sample, but her performances haven't been great. And in that match, and I just think that Leylah Fernandez, on the back of some good performances herself, got to the 3rd round of Beijing, lost a tight match against Coco Gauff. 3rd round of US Open, got beat by Sabalenka. These are good players that she's getting beaten by. I think it's more to her at this moment in time of her career than Osaka. So I think money line +185 is definitely a lean, but I'm going to play it safe. +3.5 games at -108.
Tempted by the money line.
Very tempted.
I'll go half a point on the money line.
Well, why don't we? Hang on.
Go on.
Let's not confuse things. Why don't we just have 1 point on the money line rather than the 3.5?
You think?
Yeah. I because I'd rather we might as well just go for the 1 point on the money line rather than 3.5. But I'm just being a little bit cautious and safe. But there's a lot of times you can play on the spread and get it right, and you call it completely right and lose money. So I don't want that scenario to happen. So let's just play the money line, 1 unit at +185.
There we go. Yeah, I think as well, you talk about, at their stages of their career, I think Osaka is a sort of player who she's only interested in the slams now, I think.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, she did reach that final in Montreal, and it showed she was back there. And US Open, I after the quarterfinals, I thought she would go on to win it. I did think she'd go on to win it, but she ran into an inspired Anisimova. But she's near that top level. Is she going to produce it here? As you say, I'm not sure about the motivation at the end of the season. I think she's probably already looking forward to the Australian Open, frankly. So that's our look at the matches, and we'll just summarise. So we've got a point on Fernandez there at plus 185. What was the other bet? I think my bet was Baptiste plus 104 on the money line against Ashlyn Krueger. So those are our two plays in the matches. And then outright, Nigel, what are we going for? Jasmine Paolini.
Yeah, we both gone for 0.75 for the 3/4 point each way on Paolini. So combined, we've got 1.5 point bet on Paolini. And I've just thrown a 1/4 point each way bet on Kostyuk at 150 to 1. So Paolini 33 to 1. And Marta Kostyuk at 150. Trying to get the each way value. I think Sabalenka will make it through to the final. I'm just trying to find some each way value to oppose Goff, Swiatek, and Andreeva, who I don't think we're in the best form in the bottom half of the draw.
So there we have it. That's our look at the Wuhan Open, the last WTA 1000 event of the year. Nigel, I've this time of year, I've got no idea what's going on any of the tours, really. I can keep up, obviously, because we have our shows for the WTA. ATP, what's going on there? Are you and Sean got a show today? Or
No, we're still
midway through.
We're not even.
Shanghai,
we're 3 days in. We've got to go for another week in Shanghai. So we've got a couple of updates in Shanghai next week, and then we've got a new tournament. Finally, it returns to Europe, which is great. On Sunday, we've got Betting Weekly Tennis Live, Monday through to Wednesday. Betting Weekly Live, Monday through to Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. No Premier League, no extra time this week because it's the international break as well. So Rory, it's all on Paolini to make sure that these viewers and everyone who's subscribers cashes those tickets. And obviously you've got the newsletter. And we're revamping the newsletter. It's very important. We're revamping the newsletter in the next couple of weeks. And there's going to be a lot of stuff there that will make people, it's very important you subscribe to, because there's going to be some hooks and dangles there and incentives to make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. So make sure you do that at bettingweeklystudios.com. It's free. Just do it.
Yeah, sign up to the newsletter. And Forza Jasmine for us on this show. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon on Betting Weekly WTA.